Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the folks across the globe. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Saukartika from TSI and I would be the moderator for this session. Today we are presenting tips and tricks in zTPFGI presented by Richard Charles Henry. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the session, please click on the hand raise button so that you will be unmuted to proceed with the questions. Now, without further ado, we'll turn the time over to Rick. Our presenter today is a software engineer who have been associated with TSI for close to a year and who have overall of 36 years of experience. And his fortes are assembler, C, TPFDF, Linux, and Lisa service visualization. Rick, now it's your time.
Okay. I'm going to go over some of the lesser known features to maybe help the developers do their jobs. So we're going to touch on the toggle, the detailed layer button, restore and low set view panel, restore and save the current layout, add shared objects to view, drop the shared objects, sharing a load set across multiple developers, claiming a lost load set, the search and filter buttons within the trace viewer output, copying that output with the indents, how you can manage login passrooms that GI stores within itself that it uses for Linux and VM. And then a problem that I saw happen a lot is Windows would push an update and it would corrupt some of the GI register entries, and the developers, when they would bring GI up, would have informational bulletins pop up saying that a server connection was not available. And so we have this is available in the 1.3.8.0 release. We have a way now that we can restore those entries quickly before you had to go through a rather long process. And I'll go into that in a bit. Okay, let's go to GI. And bring up a ALC terminal. Okay, and with the ALC1 terminal in there, it blocks quite a bit of your view. So if you needed to go in and look at your source, you either have to move the ALC1 terminal off to the screen, and there's no minimize button on it. A real quick way to do it is up in the top bar next to a little bit past the Z, you'll see a little box with two little boxes in it, and if you just click on that, it will dissipate, or it'll minimize the ALC1 window, and it'll also minimize any, if you had core blocks displayed or anything else. And then to bring that back, all you have to do is click on the little box again. Sometimes, and I know it can get really frustrating, either GI forgets certain, you'll go over to your home screen and none of your, it'll be a blank, or maybe you have accidentally clicked to get rid of the home, the host panel, and you want to restore that. And a real easy way to get that back is to go to the View tab on the top panel and restore layouts. Then you can click with, that way the other default settings are left alone. So you can switch and you can see this is the debug layout, and then here's the default layout. The next is adding a shared object to view. So whenever code goes to production, it's compiled with the options to generate the zTPFGI file. These files are then stored off and are accessible. So from the load sets panel, you can just right-click and add shared object to view, and it doesn't have to be anything that you've loaded, and then you can go trace it in source view, and it'll lock it in. And then the way that you get rid of anything that you've brought up in as a shared added shared object is you again right-click, and you can drop added shared object to view, or if you've added several of them, you can drop all the shared objects from added shared objects from view. Now, one of the handier features that we have is in Analyze. We have the on the top left ribbon, one down from the file, is the trace output. And what this shows you is if you had any macros being traced, it'll show you the progression of all the macros that it's logged as you've gone through your trace. So let's set up a little trace here. Let's just do enters and an entry. Now you don't want to, where this is real handy is if you think something is going off the rails, you can set it and set your trace options to run on, and then it'll capture everything that you've selected as your trace parameters, but just keeps, all it does is log them to the output viewer. So if you click run the trace, it'll then execute all those trace options that you have and execute the entry and run to completion. You go back to Analyze, and you click the output viewer. That brings that back up. It shows that we've done 3 different ECBs, not with that entry, but 3 total that it's captured. The last one that we've done was ECB 06. So if we uncheck the other 2, it'll display them, but it'll show down in the bottom with a check mark all the ones that are related to ECB 06. And then if we want to search for a particular program, it'll then, if you're only doing a search, it'll just mark the WGR1s. Sorry. And see the this is an enter to WGR1, and this is the program. The second line is the WGR1 executing. If you want to then filter on WGR1s, what it does is will only show you those. So it goes through all the different output and only filters out the things that match on that containing box. So that's a real handy feature to have. Let's see, let's take this off. And then if we do the program flow, it'll indent it as the program goes through the enters, and then it'll decrease the indentation as the return Cs or the back Cs are performed. And then sometimes you don't want to keep your all this data and only view it in the trace output viewer. Maybe you want to then copy it in for a presentation. We allow an export feature, and you can copy it over to an Excel spreadsheet, but then you lose the indentations. So we now allow you to, you can select all and then copy the program flow with indents. And then if you paste it into a document, you have all the indents copied over. So, okay, and the next topic is zTPFGI manages, contains a management application to manage the passwords. Now, it's not going to change the passwords on any of the host systems, but it will maintain them and then apply them for each time you bring up GI to log you into those various systems. You can access that feature by going to the File tab, and then System Connections, and then Manage Login Passwords. In here, you would click Update Password. You would enter in your password, and then instead of clicking the OK button, I always click the Test button that is not quite highlighted here. And then click Test button. It'll go and see if that password is valid and report back to you. So that way you know you're not storing in an invalid password. And if it does give you that the password's invalid, then you would go to whatever facility you use to change your passwords in those host systems and change the password. And then come back and go through this procedure a second time. With 1.3.8.0, we'll have a facility that then it'll remember if you use like LDAP across multiple zLinux boxes, or you have multiple VM machines that all share the same password, we'll be able to keep track of which machines are storing, have a common password. And so you should only have to update that password for one instance of zLinux or one instance of VM. And that'll be, should be rolling out to the various installations fairly quickly. And the last thing I was going to show was a tool that that GI has called Zgi Quick Fix. And it was originally used to fix like docking problems or cursors being corrupted and not showing up in the proper proper places. But with once we started getting these server values that were corrupted in the registry, they went and started saving off the registry, the zTPFGI registry entries, and then you can use the Zgi Quick Fix to restore those, so you don't have to go through the long process of changing the user on GI and then restoring all your projects and stuff. So what you do is you search for Zgi, and you'll see Zgi Quick Fix will pop up. And then in order to use it, you need to close down GI. Here's an example of what the servers not found are, but let me get rid of that. And then after GI is closed, you just hit Fix. And it'll tell you what it's done. So it'll report to you that it's successfully reset the docking, successfully reset the breakpoints, cursor positions, and it doesn't mention that it reset your registry values, but it has. And then you can go ahead and close that and start GI, and you shouldn't see those error messages then appear. That's all I have for today. I'm sorry this was a short presentation.
Thank you, Rick. A gentle reminder to the attendees, if you have any questions during the session, please click on the hand raise button so that you will be unmuted to proceed with your questions, or you can enter your questions straight away in the question chat box. And there's a question from Benjamin. Is there a shortcut key? Can you please Benjamin, can you please specify for what you're asking this shortcut key?
To minimize that.
Yeah.
All right. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. That was at the beginning of the presentation. He was showing us that you could click a button and it would minimize the ALC terminal and other windows, but it would be better if there was a shortcut. So that's what I was asking.
I don't know that there's a shortcut key assigned to that, but I can find out and get back to you.
Okay. If not, can you make it a low-level wish list item?
Sure. Someone just pinged me that it might be Control-Shift-T.
Rick, it looks like we have answered the questions. So thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. A short survey will open up. You can specify topics for the upcoming webinar session. We will send you webinar follow-up email within a week's time, which will contain the link of this recorded session. If in case of any queries, contact customer support executive or write to productsinfo@tpfsoftware.com. Thanks again. We have webinars followed on second Wednesday of every month. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.